Darryl, thank you so much for doing this. How are we doing after Saturday's tough loss for the Blue Jays?
Was a rough night in our house, but we got through it. It's funny all year from us being in LA over those years. We talked about this year. Wouldn't it be awesome if the National League winner was LA and the American League winner was the Jays, and they could play in the World Series? So it's like I said yesterday to you that to go 7 games and go extra innings. I mean that's the perfect scenario, and you think about a couple inches short on a couple of them plays, is all it is.
Yeah, 100% with the margins being that thin, Sutsy, it makes it kind of more devastating when they don't pull it off. But at the end of the day, when you look back, you can be proud of that team, right? And I can't really say that's been the case with some other playoff losses in other sports in Toronto.
One thing in Canada, when you talk about it, because they're our only baseball team, everybody got on the wagon. And big reason why is because they seen it was a team. And, it's so much hype nowadays about the star and the guy who's not playing good and all that. But then you see the team and what they could get through their lineup. It didn't have to be the big guys. Sure, Springer, Springer and Vladdy made big plays all through, things like that. But those guys coming off the bench, those role guys, that was our sport. Those third, fourth line guys, and those guys coming out of the pen, giving you 3 batters, things like that. Those guys were unbelievable through the whole playoffs.
It hurts, but over time it'll get better into spring training. I think spring training, guys, is like 99 days away, so looking forward to that. But do you think there's something the Maple Leafs can learn? Like, I like the fact that you brought up the team first mentality, because that's what really dragged me into the fight from the Blue Jays perspective, how likable that team is. Those guys played for each other on a daily basis, right?
Yeah, you know what? In saying that also, when you've coached and played on winning championships, the reason they win is because they play for each other. And it doesn't mean everybody's always buddies, but they play for each other and they back each other up. And the Jays did that. And can the Leafs learn from that? Sure. But you know what they're going to learn more than anything is you get to Game 7. That means you're still a champion. Like you think about it, when you get to that far, you're a champion, and so you take that. So, hey, we want the Leafs to get there.
For sure. And by all accounts, they're trying to do that, but it's been kind of a yin and yang season. Like their good is very good, but their bad is bad. And that was on such display last night with just the worst 40 minutes they've played, followed up by some of the best 20. If you're Craig Berube, what do you do when your team is that inconsistent?
I think you're looking at the fundamental part of your system, and you got to correct those little things like you watch, and whether it's a rush read, there's simple reads. I seen Nylander said it a few days ago about just the simple things, and he's dead on. Like there's 1-on-1 reads, there's 3-on-2 reads, there's back check reads, there's D zone coverage reads. Do all those little things right, and then make that good. Just try and be a second quicker in everything you're doing. I think they, as much as they miss Tanny on the ice, a lot of what I'm saying there, that's what Chris Tanev does, right? Those things, and that's the stability that you always go back to, is guys like that, and they need guys in the ice. Everybody doing that. I think that it's coming for them. I think that the real hot point always in the NHL is used to be. Remember, they'd say U.S. Thanksgiving. Well, that's the 20-game mark right there for teams, and that's when you get a really good. Sometimes there's a discrepancy home and road games, but usually you have a pretty good read on your team after that and who actually is, because when you got a lot of new guys and young guys, there's a buy-in too. There's a system buy-in, and when you're not practicing a lot, it's more than me talking to you and line mates and pair, deep pair and goalies, all that. So it's more now not about practice makes perfect. It's about just sort of demanding that of each other, and you know exactly what we're doing, and then it'll all come out for them.
I'm happy you brought up Chris Tanev. What a warrior. Freaky situation, of course, over the weekend. But what was it like to coach Chris Tanev?
Well, he was easy to coach because quite honest, we were a lot alike, and you could talk personally to Tanny about anything. It didn't have to be hockey. So that was a cool. It wasn't even. I'm not sure it was a coach-player relationship, quite honest. But on the ice, you knew he was ready for every game. You knew he could play against everybody. He played hurt. and what he's going through now is something different he didn't have before. But he played hurt, and and he could play with anybody too. Like we put him the good year in Calgary, we put him with Oliver Shillington, who was basically a call-up guy, and they were our second pair, and they were awesome. So there was Noah and Rasson and those two, and they were awesome, and it gave you guy could play that 20 to 25 minutes and play first minute, last minute for sure. He got most of the penalty kill, every critical situation, and it's the only time he got a break was when we were on the power play.
Now, Sutsy, obviously this team's gone through some changes and yet to be seen, how that's going to shake out. But do you subscribe to the idea that they need to make these changes to become a more playoff style of hockey team? And do you think they've done that?
Yeah, you know what? I like those guys that they brought in. I think they're, they may be cast a little bit higher than, I think guys from Vegas. He's a 3-4. Joshua, he's a 3. You get them in the right spot and they're good players. And then I think that those kids, you have to find out where they play. So have they made the right moves? Yeah, I think so. I think Nye obviously is a really good player. I think Robertson, he's getting to play now more. He's going to have to strut his stuff and really show it. I think that the big winger from Wainwright here, McMahon.
Bobby McMahon.
He's good. Yeah, he's a 3. Put him in the right spot. It doesn't matter if it's right wing or left wing. If he's a 3-4 guy, that's where he should be. Like, just go on and on, get him in the right holes. Like, you do it by lines. And the other big thing, everybody's talking about changes and all that. The big thing is, I went through this and it's dead on. Like when we lost in Calgary, you lose Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Goodrow in one summer, and doesn't matter how good players you bring back, you don't replace those guys. Like, it's hard, and it's the guys that they played with have a hard time. So just you forget how good a player that player is for the team, and as much as publicity about him was, he didn't do this, didn't do that. Well, he's a top 10 player in the NHL. He's a 90 to 100 point guy, and so you just don't replace it. Depth doesn't replace a star player. Simple.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, Darryl, you look back at the last game specifically here against Pittsburgh. If you're Craig Berube, and I'm sure this happened to you a billion times in your career, how do you handle sort of a reaction to that type of game where it's like you tore a strip off the team at the second intermission, you find a way to come back and respond in the third period? But how do you handle that from a message standpoint?
Yeah, it sucks having to do that, quite honest, as a coach. Like, to be able to, you got to go and prod somebody or prod the group, and that's not something you want to do. But we've all done it, and all good teams, it happens too. I mean, I remember my brothers Dwayne and Brent played on those great Islander teams, and they won 4 cups, and Al Arbor would freaking give it to them guys every other day. It was about winning every game and doing everything right all the time. And I learned a lot just from listening to my brothers talk about that, about coaching, by hearing what they said about Al Arbor. So, you know what? Do you like doing it? No. Do you got to do it? Yes. Do you like how they respond? Yes. Do they always respond to it? No. So it's way. I remember once we were I was coaching in LA, and it was Jeff Carter, and I'd given the guys hell. We'd played Nashville, playing Nashville's after the second period. And I think we come back and won. It was like 8-7, and that's when we'd only give up like 2 goals a game or something. That's how good a team we were, and I was pissed off. And I gave him hell. I remember Karts just looking at me after. He goes, I don't think that'll happen too often. And so you got your teams your team's in a good place then when that happens.
And Sutsy, was there an art to that, like figuring out when to clamp down and keeping the guys on their toes? Obviously, you want to keep some bullets in the chamber. You're flying off the handle all the time, and especially with the new generation come in there, everyone knows they're a little bit softer and don't respond to that. Is it tough figuring out that mix?
Yep. These two rules still apply, though, Rosie. When you say that, is number one, there's a time when the coach has to have the room. There's a time when the coach has to give the players the room, and good coaches know that and it's clear. Like, it sounds sort of vague and broad when you say it, but when you're on the bench and you're in the room, you know exactly when that's going to be, and it works even better when the players know when you're walking off the bench. I've had veteran players; they know what I was going to say or what I was going to do. They just grab your arm when you're walking off the bench between periods, and they'd say, "I got it." I got it. You don't have to say nothing. I got it, and that's when you got a good team.
Would love to know what was said in the second intermission, but a big topic of focus in this market the last couple of weeks has been Anthony Stolarz coming out in the media, sort of calling out his team. Did you have any issue with that?
Yeah, not at all, but you got to back it up then. I think the Leafs' save percentage and goals against is not great. So I think they hopefully they get Wall back soon, and because that's strong competition in the room then again. So and I like Stolarz a lot. He's a really good goalie, and he comes with a pedigree, but you got to back it up too.
Mm-hmm. What's your prediction, Sutsy? Do these guys, they always have a subpar October. They had one last year and won the division. You think this team's going to figure it out and be a force this year?
Yeah, and I think they're trying to get away from that history part of it for sure, right? Because it's like me I got the 67 black and white Toronto Maple Leafs Stanley Cup team on my wall in the shop down here. So, I'm waiting for it, but you got to move past that, like October, November stuff. You got to say, it's tomorrow. What we're doing tomorrow. You go a game at a time and take it into, whether it's U.S. Thanksgiving or take it into Christmas. You want to be at a certain point by then. And you know what? In the long run, this is not the worst thing for them because, quite honest, there's been times the last few years where they were kind of on cruise and still winning and relying on the big guys to win the game or the power play to win the game. Maybe now this is a really, really good teaching and learning experience for them right now.
Only time will tell. Darryl, can't thank you enough for hopping by the show today. Appreciate it. We'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah, you guys have fun. Good day.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.